Join me today and let's examine the hottest new drops on streaming apps, Apple's mega sci-fi series Foundation, and the many saints of Newark, the Sopranos movie that HBO bet a lot on. We all like to root for one hero and follow their journey, but for me, I was always very partial to shows and movies that follow a lot of characters around. From Lord of the Rings to Battlestar Galactica and everything in between, I love it if I get to watch something that feels like an inhabited world, full of people and things happening, and not just follow along one character as they do stuff. That's why I love The Foundation so much, based on just 2 episodes. If you're not up to speed yet, Apple spent a gazillion dollars to bring to screen the most beloved sci-fi series of all time, Isaac Asimov's Foundation. This is a series of short stories and books published in the 60s with action that spans around 600 years and follows multiple characters around. Considering the source material, which is all science, sociology, and history, and not much character building, Apple and the people working on the TV series had no choice but to get really creative in bringing it to the screen. That means that they settled on an ensemble cast formula and found some gimmicks to give us some characters we can see for longer than just a couple of episodes. The result is somewhere between Game of Thrones and Battlestar Galactica, with a pinch of the weirdly human and terribly sad androids seen in last year's Raised by Wolves. So, if you like those series, this one should hit home for you, especially if you have not read the books. Needless to say, the book fans are kinda upset with the creative liberties taken, like gender swapping some major characters and making up some other stuff, but that's a thing with book fans, and I already went through that in a previous episode, when I talked about how they butchered the Discworld series, so let's move on from that. The Foundation is the story of the future of humanity, where we colonize most of the universe and are joined together in an empire with trillions and trillions of people. By this point, humanity has used robots and AI, but after some things go wrong, they banish these tech applications completely and rely only on human ingenuity and work. It's in this context that a famous mathematician called Harry Seldon develops a theory about psychohistory, a mathematical formula that, applied to large enough populations, can basically predict the future. Using that formula, he finds out that soon enough, the galactic empire under which all mankind works will collapse, and that collapse will trigger a new dark age that could last 30,000 years, wiping out everything we worked for.
You can't save yourselves, but you can save your legacy.
Even though Harry Seldon can't really stop this from happening, he can prepare for the disaster. He proposes to create foundations to keep all of mankind's knowledge so that when the Dark Ages come, they only have to last for a little while. His foundations are basically groups of scientists working to preserve culture, science, art, and everything, and all of this while trying to convince the Empire and the Emperor that disaster is coming their way. It's a compelling story, particularly if you're fascinated by sociology, so it's no wonder why Apple went for it. They also gathered a pretty compelling cast, bringing Jared Harris from Chernobyl to play Harry Seldon, and pairing him with Lula Bell, a new but promising actress to play his protege, Gal Dornick. While in the books Gal is a man, here she is a young woman from a planet where scientists are killed for being heretics. This allows the makers to try to make this series more in tune with current events, and I'm not sure just how accurate it is. I only read a couple of Foundation stories, but I do keep up with the news, and I found the Gal character and how she relates to the Emperor to be a pretty ham-fisted reference to global warming. You know, scientists warning about imminent doom and politicians asking for their credentials, ignoring them, or just using their research to support twisted conclusions. But anyway, I don't want to read too much into this series since there's only 3 episodes out, but I do recommend you check it out. If you love sci-fi and you're curious about Apple's debut in this television realm, you can't miss it. Just like you can't miss The Many Saints of Newark if you love gangster movies, and especially The Sopranos. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for any filmmakers, and I doubt we'll see another revival like this soon. This movie is a prequel for the Sopranos series, arguably one of the best TV shows in history, and pays homage to that by having the son of the original actor playing his dad. James Gandolfini, aka Tony Soprano, tragically passed away a few years ago, and in this movie, the young Tony Soprano is played by his son, Michael Gandolfini. The resemblance is uncanny and makes this movie a top stream this month. I don't mean just the physical resemblance, but the actual acting skills. Michael Gandolfini will probably be one of the best actors of our generation. I bet on it. Anyway, coming back to the movie. To pay homage to the many characters the series featured, who had full lives almost as fleshed out as the main character, Tony Soprano, The Many Saints of Newark keeps the recipe intact. It's set in the 60s and 70s and features younger versions of the characters you know and love, plus their parents. Remember Soprano's mom, arguably the worst human ever shown on screen? Here she's in her prime. Vera Farmiga plays her amazingly. She's her own actor, but subtly includes some of the mannerisms of the older actor from the series to give you hints about how she'll eventually end up. However, the true highlight is the main character, Dicky Moltisanti, the father of Chris, one of the major antagonists of the original series. His name also gives the name of this series, since Moltisanti means many saints, and the actor Alessandro Nivola is just perfect. The only other role I saw him in is in Face Off, that old Nicolas Cage movie, and I'd never have expected such a performance out of him. He leads the Many Saints of Newark, but the makers wove his story with the other characters to perfection, letting everyone get their moment in the sun. And that's the beauty of a well-done ensemble cast. As you probably know by now, I'm also a super football fan, and I like football movies precisely because they let more characters shine. That's why I'm also super happy to have chosen TiVo as my streaming dongle and service, because they're all about team play. If you missed the big news that's going to change football as we know it and make a lot of people happy, let me give you the short of it. This July, the NCAA finally adopted a new rule that lets student athletes sign endorsement deals with sponsors. Some were afraid that only top students would benefit from these types of sponsorships, but TiVo stepped in to level the playing field. They signed up all of the players. TiVo struck a deal with all of the athletes from Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, all 90 of them, the biggest such contract until today. That way, the spotlight is on all of the athletes, not just the high-profile players. If that's not awesome, I'm not sure what is. Sorry for the shameless plug, but I thought their move was a perfect ensemble cast moment, and I just wanted to take a moment to celebrate the good deed. And if you missed it, check out my other episode where I run down the finest movies in football history. And don't forget to like, please, it helps more than you think. Catch you later.